it's for everyone, like beginners who haven't done swimrun can definitely go and try this course.
Yeah, and then the organizers are really very, very welcoming and very, very friendly. So they were looking out for us from beginning to end. So that was fun.
Welcome to the Low Tide Boyz, a swimrun podcast. I'm Chip.
I'm Chris, and this is episode 171 of the show. On this week's show, we go down under for a race recap of this year's Transcape Swimrun. Joining us on this walkabout,
Nice.
I'm sorry, everybody. I'm sorry. Our special guests, Fatima and Roxan Maestro, A.K.A. Team Tethered Since Birth. Fatima and Roxan are twin sisters, great humans, and obviously super stoked on swimrun. So when we saw that they raced the event on Strava, we knew we had to get them on the show to get their race report.
Mm-hmm.
This event took place on March 11th, and they share all the sights, stings, and sounds of their experience in Western Australia.
But first, training update. Training is in full swing. The work's getting done. The pool is happening.
Yeah.
How are you feeling, Chris? Been back 2 weeks?
Well,
In the water. The running always.
I mean,
has been there.
it's actually been kind of interesting, and I've been doing a lot of thinking about it because, you know, I'm not coming back from injury. This was sort of a self-imposed timeout from the pool, but I think it's very similar to coming back from injury in the sense where I feel like I'm starting from square one. I feel like I've lost all this momentum. There's all this sort of like mental kind of baggage.
Yeah.
And the first swim, I mean, it's related to the shout out later, but the first swim, I was just like super down on myself. Like, you know, I'm not afraid of having to go savage doing the work.
Yeah.
It's not about doing the work. It was just like, it's still objectively going to be really hard. And just being like, damn, I haven't swam in like 141 days. I haven't done all this stuff. And I was kind of negative, and I'm like, and Chipper's so fast, you know, and I was just like, damn, I have a lot of work to do. And that whole swim was just kind of, I got it done, sore. I could barely do a deck up out of the pool, which, you know, that's usually not my issue, is the deck up out of the pool. And yeah, I mean, I was just kind of down on it, being like, wow, I really have a long way to go. And it just, you know, it just so happened that we're going to mention it later, but I listened to this early release podcast, and I listened to this guy who was basically like, hey man, you can set your intention for all these workouts. And so for the next swim 2 days later, I was like, hey, this is going to be hard, but guess what? I freaking love swimming. I'm super proud of Chipper. He's been putting in all this work, and I just totally changed my intention going into it and had a much better workout. And has basically been doing that for the following 2 weeks. And
nice. The
paces are getting better. Definitely feeling like getting my feel of the water back and everything. Nice. But I'm also enjoying it, which, while I'm still working super hard, and
that's good.
You know, was pretty sore after Saturday's swim, particular, but yeah, so I'm happy to be back, happy to be putting in the work, and I'm also glad that I'm finding a joy in this return. I know, I mean, I've been posting it on Strava. I know Jeff Emanuel's going through the same thing. He's coming back from injury. So, you know, if this helps anyone, it's like, hey man, it's doable. I'm putting my head down, doing the work, but coming at it from a place of like gratitude and, you know.
That and especially coming back from an injury, it's like maybe that same mindset, but hey, I have the opportunity to run now or swim or do whatever I couldn't because I was injured, and now I'm grateful that I can just do it.
Yeah, and like and it's an opportunity, right? To develop, you know, not just your physical abilities, but sort of your mental muscles. Like, hey, I'm coming back from this, I'm building it back up. Let me try to be super smart about it. What can I do differently? What can I optimize? And just like enjoy that process. Yeah. Knowing that the outcome is to be as ready as possible for world champs.
Mm-hmm. And we joined the Masters Club, Marin Aquatic Masters. Yeah. In Novato. Highly recommended over at the
Beautiful
IVC.
Pool.
The pool is...
It's amazing.
I don't know what the price tag was on it. I think it's got to be in the million.
It was $75 million.
$75 million pool we're swimming in?
Yeah.
Wow.
I was thinking 5, but a source of mutual friend of ours,
okay. Yes,
Alex,
I think I know. Yeah.
Alex was letting us know what it was.
Wow.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned this, and I totally agree, Chipper, that swimming at an awesome pool with trees in the background, it's clean. It's definitely a step up. I mean, that can only help us.
Yeah, it's like, imagine you put an Olympic-sized pool just in the middle of a forest. It feels like that's where we're swimming. Maybe we'll do a live, 360 IG of it. But yeah, and a great community that they have within the Masters thing. Everyone's there getting, they're there to work. Like nobody's showing up at the pool at 5:30 in the morning when it's freezing fucking cold out to like half-ass.
Yeah.
Like they're there to do work and have the discipline. But I've been enjoying having you back. It's been motivating for me. I'm like, yeah, like even though we're kind of still on the different workout thing
I'm
for
on
now.
the remedial plan.
Yeah. One day we'll. And also, Chris used to be the one who prints the workouts out, and we would reference the same sheet. But I've self-taught myself to be able to handle that. But we'll be soon enough reading from the same sheet of music. Is that how they say it?
I think so.
There
yeah.
we go. Swimming from the same swim plan. Anyway, that's a long way of also saying it looks like the Sunriver Swimrun in Bend is not going to be happening due to it. The thorn in race director side, the permitting issues.
Yeah.
So it doesn't look like we'll be racing in that, but there is a silver lining to this. You'll hear a little bit later on the show, but we will be focusing on Casco Bay in July and engaging in random feats of endurance before then to get ready. I know Chris has a marathon on the books doing some pacing. Yep. I have some pacing to do for an ultra marathon as well, but we'll see. We always find stuff to get into.
There'll be feats of endurance to get into.
Don't worry,
I've been noodling my run from my house to Mill Valley again.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It's the only time I'll drink coffee.
Yeah.
You'll
need it after that. But without further ado, let's move it on to the shout outs.
Yeah, so this week's shout out goes to Mario Feroli, previous guest on episode 30 of the show. Awesome run coach, friend of ours, friend of the show, and Dr. Justin Ross. So Mario recently had Dr. Ross, a sports psychologist, on his podcast, The Morning Shakeout, and we highly recommend that folks check out that episode, which was all about mental training as a key component to physical training. Solid gold stuff, and this is what I was mentioning before, where I help produce his podcast, so I know what's going on with the show, and I knew he was coming on, and I got to listen to early release, and it was really like that's what helped me change my whole approach to mindfulness in this. And he has a course. I've already signed up for it. I'm on week 2 of that. It's
nice.
It's cool. I'm learning a lot, and yeah, I mean, just huge shout out to Dr. Justin Ross and Mario Feroli, who this is part of a 4-part pillars of excellence, essentially.
It's marathon season. Spring marathon season.
Yeah,
for the runners.
It's like pillars of performance for running. And this is the 3rd out of 4, and yeah, they're all good. So definitely check that out if you.
Yeah, I was giving it a release listen today on the release day, and some really good stuff in there, especially as swimrun season is kind of kicking off now. We have Lake James here in a couple weeks, but especially on your approach on how to set goals and things, and it really gives you even if you don't necessarily follow the thing or sign up for the program, like it's just something interesting to think about, because it can really help manage how you look at the outcome of your races or the outcome of your events.
Right.
So it seems to be a net positive. So I'm
and
can't wait for the second half or wherever.
For sure. And we've had a lot of folks on our show to sort of speak to that. Susie Moonen, of course, Brad Stolberg.
Yeah.
But it's like, I think just the way he distilled it was like, yeah, man, you should totally be training your mental muscle just as you train your physical system, because there's so much of it is in your head. And they talk specifically about the marathon distance, but same thing for swimrun. I mean, it's just such a long day that like your approach to it, you're the one who's in charge of how you react to it.
Yeah, and it really makes a lot of sense too. Like how we talk about you need to train your gut with gels or whatever your fueling thing is. You wouldn't start a week before your race and be like, oh, I need to jam a bunch of training in to get ready. Like you can't do that with any sort of aspect of your training plan. But anywho, if you're looking for more wisdom nuggets, stay tuned, because guess what?
It's
time for Wisdom Nugget of the Week, our newest segment here. This one comes from Aristotle. It is the mark of an educated mind to be able to entertain a thought without accepting it.
Yeah, so kind of related to the above, right? Like the thoughts don't need to dictate action. You could be having a low moment, but that's your thought. Your body's still capable of moving forward. You can still rely on your training. If it seems like this is all related, well, it is, but you know what I mean? Like it's Susie Moonen talks about this a lot when you're at a low point, like thinking about it's like, hey, you've had low points before. You've gotten past them. You've done hard things in training. Just, think about that stuff.
Yeah. Think about how those are just, steps, sort of like you've done that. You've done a rep of where you've been feeling really bad or you got a cramp or whatever the situation. But
Yeah.
Anywho, now on to this week's feats of endurance.
Take it away, Chipper.
This week's winner is Marvin Mischlot, who posted an epic-looking skiing day on the slopes of St. Anton and Augsburg in Austria. Now, I have a pit on skis one time in my life, so
Same.
we're not skiers, but 33 miles, 50K-ish of skiing in 15 runs seems pretty epic. Seems like a lot.
I think it's a lot.
I think
don't
that's
know.
a lot.
If someone knows, tell us. DM
People
us.
are like, this is like an average. This is a throwaway.
This is like the bunny slope in Austria or
it
something.
might be. But anyway, Marvin, way to go. Congratulations on that. Head on over to Strava, search Low Tide Boys, join the 511 people in there or so as they train for everything in life. Could be skiing 33 runs, could be doing Swimrun Lake James here in a couple weeks. But now, kicking it over to Chris at the news desk for This Week in Swimrun.
Okay, now for the news. Swimrun season in Brazil starts this weekend with the Hero Swimrun taking place on April 15th. This event offers 5 different course events, including some runs and some straight-up swims. But they have a new 23K long course, which takes athletes through 17 beautiful beaches
Wow.
on the coastal city of Armacao de Búzios, which is about 160 kilometers east of Rio de Janeiro.
Okay.
You can learn more about the Hero Swimrun and race director Fabian Iskandarian on episode 61 of the show. Big fan of his.
Yes.
Big fan. We just want to see more South American swim runs. We love what he's doing, so we hope that he'll have an awesome race. Now, it's almost swimrun season here in the U.S. with Swimrun Lake James taking place on April 22nd. By the way, they still have slots available, so if you're able to go, we would highly recommend this event. Highly recommend this event. Now, we have a lot of content, so you can learn more about the event race director Kristen Geno on episode 65 of our show. You can listen to the recap of the 2021 race with special guests, the Swaggy Zaddies, the team formerly.
Can't believe the name.
Marcus and Lee. Yeah, they are. Episode 69, which is also fitting. Check out our course preview on episode 113, and you can also listen to our 2022 race report on episode 121. So if this is your first swim run, there's a lot of content for you to take in, and I guarantee if you listen to all these episodes, you're pretty much going to feel like you're doing the race for the second time, not the first time.
Yeah, absolutely. And if it looks like it's going to be a cold year, listen to the episode 69. Or listen to them all, obviously.
Yep.
Swaggy Zaddies is the cold one to listen to, and if you want the warm weather, listen to our race report. Those are the two ends of the spectrum you're going to get.
Exactly.
I'm sure the thermometer watch, the weather watch, is already happening for the folks racing Swimrun Lake James.
For sure. Well, that's it for this week. Reach out to us if there's any swimrun news you'd like for us to share on the show.
Now for a little bit of show business. Keeping with the Swimrun Lake James theme here, obviously we're experiencing major FOMO to be missing this year's race, April 22nd. So we thought a virtual post-race party / Swimrun community meetup to get everyone's race reports and chat through whatever you want and see how the day went. We're hosting the Low Tide Boys open house, maybe.
Yeah.
Race, whatever you want to call it. We'll be on Zoom May 7th at 6 p.m. Eastern for a casual virtual meetup to chat about all things swimrun. So it could be how your race went. If you're doing the Casco races in the summer, you got questions about your pool buoy.
You want to show us your pool buoy?
You want to know what sort of hair care regimen that Chris and I are on. Come find out May 7th, 6 p.m. Eastern.
You want to suggest hair care regimens for us?
Yeah, or haircut styles. Anywho, check that out. May 7th, we'll also have a link to the Facebook event in the show notes there. So see you there, May 7th. Now on to Team Tethered Since Birth, Fatima and Roxan, to hear their Transcape Swimrun guest race report.
Yeah, it was so great to chat with Fatima and Roxan. As we mentioned at the beginning of the show, we found out that they raced to Transcape Swimrun on Strava, and we just knew we had to have him on the show. I think I texted you, Chipper. I was like, "Hey, what do you think about this?"
Yes.
The Transcape Swimrun is a 26.5 km point-to-point course with 22 km of running and 4.5 km of swimming. In this conversation, we chatted about how the twins found Swimrun, the genesis of their idea to race in Australia, and we got the race report of their experience. So they are great. We love living vicariously through their adventure, and we thank them for dealing with some very interesting time zone difficulties to make this happen. Fatima was up at like 4 a.m. tomorrow, the day after us. In the future, calling from Guam just to make it happen. Her and her, they're both in the Coast Guard, which is thank you for your service.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is great chat.
It was always great to chat with them, and I got to see them in person at the Catalina Swimrun meetup, and so seeing their adventures carry on and that they both thoroughly still have the swimrun bug is fills me with joy. So without further ado, let's head down under to the Transcape Swimrun race recap with Team Tethered Since Birth.
All right, so with us to do a guest race recap on the Transcape Swimrun, which took place in Australia on March 11th. This was a point-to-point 26.5K course with about 22 Ks of swimming, 4.5 Ks of 22 Ks of running, and about 4.5 Ks of swimming. We have the twins, Roxan and Fatima Maestro. Welcome to the show.
Hi.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, we're super stoked to have you. I know you guys got to hang out with Chipper at Catalina last year. I didn't get a chance to meet you in person, but I know you're super stoked on Swimrun. So why don't we just talk about a little bit about how you found Swimrun and where did you get the idea to meet up in Australia to do this race?
Okay, so we found out about Swimrun in 2017. So I was at that time stationed in Oregon, but our boat is in Bellingham, Washington. And my sister was planning on visiting me because we haven't seen each other for a while. And then I was like, we should do something once you get here. And I don't have a house at that time yet, so I still live in the boat. So I was looking for events to do in Bellingham, Washington, and I saw a swimrun and I was like, hey, do you want to do this swimrun thing? So, and then that's like the first time that we heard about swimrun and we decided to sign up and do it.
Wow.
I love it. Yeah. I love it. And Roxanne, you were just like, yeah, sure, no problem. Let's go for it.
Yes, I was like, I told her, I'm only going to visit you if we're going to be doing something. So she's like, okay, let me find some stuff to do. So she's like, okay, are you down to do the swim run? I was like, sure, yeah, let's do it. Then we Googled like what stuff to wear, shoes to wear, and like wetsuits and whatnot. What's the weather in Washington? Because at that time I was living in Key West, Florida. So I was like, okay, sure, I'll do it. So, and then the rest is history.
Sure is.
Wow. And I'm already picking up on a trend because if I remember correctly in Catalina, it was Fatma that you had convinced Roxanne to come out to Catalina for another sister meetup adventure situation. Do I have this correct?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I knew I was onto something here. So in Catalina 2022, it was canceled, and we still there was a bunch of people that still kept their reservations and everything for Catalina. We had a fun, what was it, 5-hour swim run adventure. I ended up peeling off early, but both of you were there, and that was such a great example of the swim run community, sort of. But that you two are definitely a part, and with Team Envol now, and doing races all over. So how did the Transcape Swimrun come on your radar?
So since I'm in Guam now and too far from the US, I was like trying to look for swimrun that's close to me, and the closest that I found was in Australia. And sometimes our boat goes to Australia, and I was like, right, let me see if there's a swimrun in Australia that we can go to. And then I saw the Transcape Swimrun, and the same thing. I asked my sister, hey, do you want to do you want to go to Australia to do a swim run? And of course, she said yes. So, and we just did all the planning and talked to the organizers, which is Aaron and Sue, and they helped us out. Hey, I'm flying from Guam, and my sister's flying from New York. Could you give us more information of like where to go and all that stuff? So
I love it.
Wow.
I love it. I mean, I think it's a testament to the fact that you guys are swim runners, which is just like, okay, we're going to be in this place. Where is there a swim run nearby that we can find and do?
Yep.
And I also love, I mean, this basically makes you Low Tide Boys correspondents, because like I remember texting Chipper. I was like, hey, did you see that the Maestro twins like did this race that we actually were trying to get the race directors on to do like a show with them, but that time zones and everything, it kept kind of like falling through. But the second you guys were on, I was like, Chipper, let's get them on. Let's talk about this thing, because the race looks awesome. So I think like getting into it, like just give us like the whole, like you get into Australia, like how did that go? How was sort of the pre-race meeting and all that stuff? And let's just get into sort of what your experience was.
okay, so we flew into Australia on the 9th. Because I had to come from Saipan, fly to Guam, and then from Guam I flew into Australia. So, I flew in on the 9th. We got there on the 10th, and we got our race packet on the 10th as well. Drove from Perth to Western Australia. It's like a 3-hour drive, and I waited for Roxanne at the airport. And then we drove to Perth, out to Dunsborough in Western Australia to meet up with the organizers to do the packet pickup. And when we met Sue, she was asking, "Oh, you guys are the twins from the U.S. How was
Famous.
it? I'm glad you guys made it." And then
Love it.
she asked us where we're from, and when we got to Australia, it was crazy because they're like, "Wait, you just got here today, and the race is tomorrow? You guys are crazy." And I didn't even consider about like the time difference for my sister, because for me it's only like a 2-hour time difference, but for her it's like 15 hours, and the race is the next day. So.
Yeah, you're like racing in the future. It's not even
Wow.
15 hours. Like you just,
Yeah, so I was like, yeah, we flew. I got there the 10th. I left New York March 8th, which is a Wednesday. And my flight was like 26 hours, not including layovers. I was
Oh.
like, oh no, I don't want to do this yet. But it was worth it once I got to Australia, because it's really beautiful there. So
I mean, it's such a commitment. I mean, going
Yes.
anywhere, but I assume you guys have a very loving and healthy relationship if one of you is willing to fly that far. I mean, Chipper, we
Or
might
just
as
a
well
ton
be
of airline
brothers.
miles.
I'd have to really think about. It's like, wait, I'm going to fly 26 hours to do what with you? What?
I'm just gonna miss a whole day. I'll never get the day back. It's just gone. Never get it back. Wow, that is. Now, I would assume, I don't know why, just because I'm American, that the second you step off a plane, there's kangaroos everywhere. Is that not the case, I assume?
No, it was
no,
not.
it's not.
Man, I thought for sure. They would just be like, you walk out from the airport, there's one sitting next to your Uber, but
There's like
that's
a
not
koala
the
bear
case.
there to give you a hug and stuff.
Yeah, some sort of situation like that. So, man, so this is taking a look at the map here. You kind of are on the coastline the whole time of where you're racing. How was the temperatures coming from New York to Australia? Maybe was a little bit of you had the time zone shock, but how was the weather and the climate and the trail situation?
Oh, I love the weather, because it's winter time in New York, so I think it was like snowing when I left, and then when I got to Australia, I was like, okay, I'm gonna stay here. I don't want to be in New York anymore. But yeah, it was beautiful. The weather was beautiful. I don't think it rained the entire time we were there, so that was great. And then the coast of Western Australia is just perfect. So.
Yeah, I mean, can you tell us like what sort of, I mean, because we've never been, but did it remind you of any place that you've raced before, or like, kind of what was the vibe of it? Was Was it like Southern California kind of coast or more Florida? Like what do you think it was like?
I'd say it's a little bit like Catalina, but with less elevation. And then, yeah, I don't know. And then there's not that many uphill, but the coast is just beautiful. Like the water is very clear. And the water temperature, it shocked, I guess, me and my sister at first. But as soon as we started swimming, it kind of warmed up a bit. So
Was it chilly?
it was chilly at first. Yeah.
And
I
what
don't know
was
what water
what was I'm always curious about this because every race that Chipper and I have done, and I'm sure the same for you guys, like this vibe, the swimrun vibe is always alive and well. Was it kind of the same there? It was just like everyone being super cool and friendly and helpful. Like what was the scene like?
It is like that. So I've done 4 swim runs now, and it's all like the same. The vibe is just so amazing, and the people are just like very welcoming, especially for us. Like we don't know anyone from there, and they're like, "Oh, these are the twins from the U.S. and Fatima and Roxan," and then they're like, "Oh, hi!" And then throughout the race, they were like, "Oh, you guys are the twins," and then even like at the finish line, they were like announcing our names. Oh. Tethered Since Birth from Guam and New York, who went just to do the race, and everyone's like cheering for us. So it was amazing.
That's
love it.
awesome. Yeah, you became your own celebrities there.
Yes.
Now let's get into how the race unfolded for you all. Roxanne, how are you feeling that morning of the race? Maybe a little groggy, but what were you guys all looking to do out there in terms of what were your goals, or just looking to enjoy some time out there as sisters?
Yeah, basically, yes, I was jet lagged for sure. I think I woke up at like 2 a.m. and the meeting time is at 6 a.m. So there was that. But our main goal was pretty much just to finish the race and have fun because they had several cutoff times. So we're like, okay, our goal is just to finish and definitely enjoy, especially we're in Australia, so why not?
Yes.
Yeah, well, it definitely seems like you guys enjoyed it because it was like an 8-minute GoPro video. So, I mean, I love that you guys went into it with that attitude. It's like, hey, I mean, maybe you didn't know that you were going to be, Low Tide Boys correspondents on this thing, but it definitely, to us, it was like, I really felt like I got from the video, which we'll link in our show notes, it looks like you're having a ball, and it was super fun. And it looked like it was a great adventure. So the race starts with like a 5K run. Was it like swim runs here in the US where, people are full of piss and vinegar and a bunch of people just kind of like shoot off out the front instead of just taking it easy like we always recommend?
No, there are a few people who just like went in and just like run it. And there are people who's just like there to have fun. And on the first run, actually, that's like the longest run, and it's from like Cape Naturalist lighthouse up to like Bunker Bay, and you would see the lighthouse and the coast of Western Australia. It's just like so pretty, and there's a section there where it's just like a 1-person trail, so we're all just like pretty much hiking through, but there's still some swim runners who would just like pass us, and we're like, okay, yeah, go ahead, I'm just enjoying this view.
Love it.
Nice. Yeah. And then you get in, you have a little bit of aid station. Is the temperature, are you starting to get hot? You're begging for the water, begging for the swim coming up, or was it a comfortable temperature to start in the morning?
It started getting hot. Especially that's like the longest run of the day. So towards the end, it was like we started feeling warm, but the aid stations, it's pretty much on like every before the entry for the swim, there's like an aid station. There's water and electrolytes, bananas, and sunscreen. So
So you make your way into that first swim. You mentioned a little bit earlier it was a little bit chilly. It kind of caught you a little off guard there. How was the water in terms of chop and navigating that? I know you all are marathon swimmers as well, so maybe it was no big deal.
Yes, I think the one that I enjoyed the most is definitely the swimming. But for the first swim, like I said, it was a little bit chilly at first, but then we kind of got comfortable a bit. And then on that first leg of the swim, I got stung by a jellyfish. So, and the mayor, after the race, the mayor was like saying this is the worst they've seen in 10 years. So, but yeah, I think I got stung like 4 or 5 times. But it wasn't too.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Wow. Hey, you know
Scare
what?
anyone who's planning on doing a race. But yeah, but the water was very clear. They have a lot of water safety personnel in the water. So they have jet skis, paddle boarders, kayakers that's just patrolling wherever the swimmers are. So that was good.
Nice. That's always a great peace of mind for a race when you never feel like you're out of anybody's sight.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, and it looked like just from the photos, like I didn't really see anyone wearing wetsuits, swimmer wetsuits. It seemed like most people were like in their tri kits and stuff like that, or shirtless. And that water. I mean, it looked really clear. So I mean, from the photos, it's kind of like, I guess you wouldn't think that it was cold, but I guess it was just because it's like the early morning kind of swims type of thing.
Yes, it was, but it's also like after every run, like you just want to swim and get that like chill swim. So it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
and then-
no, go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah, for the race, when they were sending us the pre-race briefing, they even mentioned there no wetsuit allowed because of the temperature. So, yeah.
Nice.
I'm sure like a VIG, they would have allowed a VIG, but yeah. Anyway, that's just me though. No one cares about that except for me. So let's keep kind of going through this course. So from the course map, it looks like you have that big first run, 5K, then about a 530 meter swim, then another like a 3.5K run. It seems like there was 8 stations like all over the place. So how was it in terms of like pacing? You guys felt good the whole time? Is there any part of the race that was particularly interesting that you want to tell us about?
So all throughout the race, it was really good. Like I said, we were just like having fun most of the time. On the run to after the first swim, it was all like just like sand for the first maybe half of the run, and we weren't like really expecting it. So it was like soft sand, and people were just like running all over, and then we were just like, no, I can't run. I'm just gonna walk it through. And then like after the sand, then comes like the rocks and limestones and just like boulders, and that was like amazing. I enjoyed that one, just like running on the rocks, and then after that, it's another like 850 meter swim, more jellyfish stings, but clear water as well. So, yeah.
Oh, man, these jellyfish, they're after you.
Yeah, the water, at least the water was clear enough so you could maybe see the jellyfish when they're kind of floating towards you.
Yes. But, yeah. And then, on the third run, that's when they divided it into 2, which is like a 1.5 kilometer run and then like a 0.85 kilometers. But it's because they have a mandatory stop. They call it a dieback disco, because that's when all of the teams are required to wash their shoes and dance for at least 20 seconds because there's a dieback outbreak and they wanted to stop that one. So you have to wash your shoes first before you go to the next round. Yes.
I like that. It's a little bit of extra curveball. Not expecting on the. That's at Swimrun NC. They make you stop at the top for a photo. Similar mandatory stoppage, but
Yeah, but not because of trying to prevent.
Not for a photo though. So you carried on after you did the disco dance there.
Yes.
to the
Yes.
next swim, and there's a few more aid stations there, and then you get into another almost 4K run.
Yes. So the
Yeah, and
4K
then for
one. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
no, go ahead. Yeah, for that one, I think that was the last long run, 3.5K. And then that one is like a mixture of road and trail. And I was sort of getting tired. My legs were like feeling it, and the heat was getting to me too at that point. And then there was a little bit of uphill for that run, but I'd say it was still a good one because the next swim, I don't know, I think that was our favorite swim.
Mhm.
So, because it was I can't remember what the distance was. I think it was like 400 meters. So it wasn't too long, wasn't too short. And then, like, especially right after the long run, 3.5K, all you wanted to do was swim. So there's that. And then they have really good aid stations too. So,
Yeah, I mean, it looks like that's a really fun part of the course because, like you said, once you go through that, I think it's run 4 on the course. Then you have like a 440 meter swim, a 0.8K run, right into a 500 meter swim, then a 1K run, then a 230 meter swim, and then an 8K run. So it just like you were just jumping in and out of the water like really, really quickly. Like that must have been super fun to kind of just go up the coastline like that.
It
yes.
is.
And then, yeah.
Especially because, I mean, our strength is more on swimming than running. So on the swimming part, that's when we were actually like really doing it, and we caught up on a lot of like the teams. And then it's only like, oh, it's only like going to be a short run. We can do this. It's going to be a 500 meter swim. We're going to catch up on them on the swim again. So and there's even like other teams who are like, oh, we wish we were as fast as you on the swimming. And we said, we wish we're as fast as you on the running, because we just kept on like chasing each other on like, they'll chase us on the run and then we'll go chase them on the swim and then do the same thing. So
That's it's always a good enhancement to a race experience when you're, even if it's not a competitive thing, but sort of the yo-yoing back and forth and swapping between teams is always kind of fun. But I feel like the swim's the hardest to understand, maybe with the waters that we're swimming in, they're a little bit more murky, so we don't have a clear vision, but it's hard to understand who's passing who and whatnot there. But that is always a fun part of the race, to yo-yo back and forth.
yes, but the good thing as well, this race, the course is like well marked. They have arrows everywhere for like the trail, and then for the swim, they have just like a flag, and there's always someone before like the swim to tell you where to go. Like, oh, there's a flag right there. It's only like a 200 meter swim, so that's always good.
Yeah, so so it looks like the race went off without a hitch. You get to sort of the final run, where you end at this lighthouse, which I was just, before this I was like Googling some pictures. This is Cape Naturaliste. I don't know how you pronounce it or whatever, but I mean, it looked really nice. It looked like super, super nice.
It is. Yeah, that's where we started it, and then it ended at the Dunsborough Bay Yacht Club. So
right.
it was pretty.
Oh yeah, that's right. I had it backwards. You're right. So give us your rating. You've done four swim runs. Where does this one rank in terms of how much fun you have, the adventure part of it? Is this a race you'd recommend? For example, a couple guys from California flying for 24 hours to go do
26-hour flight.
Well, that's 26 from New York, so maybe from California, it will be shorter. So.
Yeah,
we'll go the other way.
Like 2020,
okay.
19 maybe.
Yes. I recommend it a lot. So the swim runs I've done Bellingham Swimrun twice. I did the first one with my sister and the second one with a different partner. I've done Swimrun Lake James. And then this one, I'd say it's probably going to be my number one, because first off, it's on a different country.
It's hard to beat.
Yes. Second, the coast is just really beautiful. I mean, and the water is just like so clear. And the runs are short after the first half, so that one's always good. So I'd say it's going to be my number one.
Awesome. And it looks like it was produced expertly well because, I mean, there's 7 aid stations. They give great photos after. It sounds like the markers on the course was all great. It seems like this is a very, very pro-level event that you all was put on there.
It is. And it's for everyone, like beginners who haven't done swimrun can definitely go and try this course because the swims, they're not that long, and the runs as well. It's not like the longest is a 5K, so it's not that long of a run, but just fun.
Nice.
Love it.
Yeah, and then the organizers are really very, very welcoming and very, very friendly. So they were looking out for us from beginning to end. So that was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the boat safety you mentioned as well on the course. It's a nice peace of mind as well. So
It is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I mean, it sounds like it was a great experience. I mean, one of the things we love about there's obviously a lot of things we love about swimrun, which is why we have this show. We won't stop talking about it. But, the idea that you can swim run in so many different types of environments. And of course it makes sense. I mean, Australia, there's a lot of triathletes out there, it's a very active country. So it makes sense that swim run would find a foothold there.
Mm-hmm.
But it's always so great to see. It's like, oh man, there's races all over the world now for swim run. I mean, it's just so cool.
It is. And hopefully we can do it again next year. We'll see.
Okay. And did you stay
I don't hear
after
Roxanne
for
saying anything though.
Roxanne? Did you stay a couple days after to enjoy Australia?
Yes, we did. I think we stayed 4 more days after the race.
Nice.
So yeah, we just explored the town of Dunsborough in Western Australia for like 2 days, and then went to Perth and Rottnest Island for our last day. So that was fun. And then my sister was her goal when we landed was like, I want to see a kangaroo. So
Did it happen?
Yes. We
Great.
went around and looked for a kangaroo. So there was that.
Just like driving around.
Just drive around.
Yes.
Do you?
We
Is there some?
walked
What do
and
they
then
eat?
drove around.
Like a carrot?
What
Do
was
you
that?
hold carrot? You hold a carrot out the window driving around? What are they? How do you attract kangaroos to you?
So we just looked around because they said that you can see them mostly at like early morning or at the end of the night. So we went like early morning before we hopped on the ferry to Rottnest Island, and we just walked at this like park where they said you can find a lot of kangaroos, but you'll get very lucky if you see all of them. And I think we're one of the lucky ones who saw like 7 kangaroos in one morning.
Wow.
And we're just like, oh.
Like mission accomplished. Jeez.
Yes.
That's great.
Man. Well, it's not a proper Low Tide Boys guest race report without a mammal sighting. So we're glad you all saw the camel.
It's a marsupial.
Marsupial. I meant land beast is probably what I should have said instead of
Fair
trying
enough.
to get over.
Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, Perth is a really interesting part of the country as well. I mean, and then Rottnest Island. We actually just gave a shout out to someone a few weeks ago. I think I can't remember her name. I think it's Roxy. She swam from Rottnest Island like back to Perth, which is
Wow. That's
11,000 yards or something.
Don't give them any ideas, Chris, for their next sister meetup.
I am giving them ideas. That's
Okay.
exactly what I'm doing.
Yeah, we saw that one, and I was actually kind of interested in that one, but it still depends on work schedule, and all that stuff. So,
Fair enough. Yeah. So speaking of, kind of what's next for you guys, I know, Fatima, you're stationed in Guam right now, and that makes it a little hard to do a lot of things without having to fly somewhere. But what's next for the both of you?
For now, we don't know yet because everything depends on our work schedule still. But I'm here for 2 years, so I'll be transferring 2024. And we really want to do Odyssey Casco Bay swimrun. That's been our dream swimrun since we started, and we've been hoping to do it once I get back to the States. So, and then hopefully Transcape Swimrun again next year. And
That'd be awesome. Well, hey, you know which one I'd recommend? That's, I guess, some closer to you than it is to us. Not for you, Roxanne. Like, you'll still have to travel a ton, but the Bali Hope Swim Run.
I know. I heard about the podcast, and I was actually I brought it up to her, and I was like, "Well, you want to go to Bali?"
I was like, okay,
So we'll see. We'll see.
We could always do like a crowdfunding thing to just get those plane tickets because
Yes. And it's cheaper too. At least, well, for me,
it's cheaper for her.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, you guys, thank you so much for
Absolutely.
giving us a little bit of an insight into how the race went. I mean, it looked like an awesome experience. Again, the video, I mean, Chipper and I, we probably watched that thing a bunch of times, just like, oh man, look at this course, look how much fun they're having. This looks amazing. Sort of tropical kind of swim runs. It just looked magical. So thank you so much for just going and doing it, and for willing to come on the show to share with all of us.
Yes, thank you so much for having us.
We had that.
That was in unison. That was twin unison. That was couldn't have planned it better. Awesome. Well, we're always rooting for the twins, and we can't wait to see where you all end up next on your next adventure. So, thanks again.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
That's it for this week's episode. Thanks so much for listening to the show. Make sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts, and leave a rating or review, since that's the best way to help other people discover the show and the sport of swim run.
Check out our website, lowtideboys.com. That's boys with a Z, for swimrun resources, including gear guides, tips, how-to videos, and so much more. Make sure to check out our meme page at The Low Tide Boys on Instagram. If you have any questions or suggestions for the show, send us a DM or email us at lowtideboys@gmail.com.
We'd like to thank Riding Easy Records for our show music, and of course our wives for their support and tolerance of our swim run and other activities.
Lots of activities.
Lots of activities.
Finally, you can support our efforts on Patreon. Until next time, get out there and go for a swim.
Then a run.
And then a swim.
Then another run.
Then another swim.
Then run some more.
Just keep going.
Let's go.
And then stop at some point because,
And fuel. Don't forget to fuel.
Gotta fuel
Of
too.
course, yes.